Let's go one by one. Larry Page and Sergey Brin. Mm-hmm. Based on the research you've done, what have you learned about those guys from Google?
Okay, so as far as Google as a company goes, from the very beginning of that company, they took national security state money, specifically CIA money, and throughout their existence as a company, like we know from the Edward Snowden documents, collaborated very openly with the NSA and other national security agencies and sharing data in ways that they were not, public about with their customers and users. And of course, Google dominates search, so they have a huge role in the type of information people access when they look for something. Those first results, what results are first.
Yep.
Google has a lot of power. And to take it back to WikiLeaks for a second, if you remember back, I believe Julian Assange wrote a book called When Google Met WikiLeaks, basically talking about how his experience with that led him to believe that Google was essentially operating as an intelligence agency in connection with the Hillary Clinton-run State Department. So, I think Jigsaw at the time, which was part of Alphabet, had these weird connections with, things going on in the Arab Spring and other geopolitical developments where Google was alleged to have played an outside role. So it's important to keep in mind those aspects of Google. But, as far as the specific connection to Epstein goes, Larry Page, I'm not necessarily familiar with anything, but before the subpoena, it was known that Sergey Brin was going to the townhouse with Epstein in the early 2000s.
He was?
Yeah, and I think at least one of those meetings, Mort Zuckerman, who's listed on that subpoena list as well, was present. That these were some regular visitors to his townhouse in the early 2000s. And it's possible as well that, this Edge Foundation thing, and again, I'm not trying to say Edge is a pretty big thing. Not everyone that was part of Edge was tied up with Epstein, but I think it's pretty clear from the finances alone that Epstein used that billionaire dinner and his big role as the main funder for a long time of Edge and being very close to Brockman to get access to these big tech people. You have to keep in mind, too, that after Epstein was busted for sex trafficking the first time, he tried to rebrand as a big-time tech investor specifically. And his big company that he was trying to make out of the Virgin Islands, which I think he made in 2012, was called Southern Trust, and he framed it as being a biomedical and financial Google. It was described by the New York Times as a DNA data mining firm. So he's trying to get in all these spaces that also Google and a lot of these other big tech companies are also trying to get to in relatively the same period of time. Because 2012 is 10 years ago. A lot of people are talking about AI now and all of this stuff, but Epstein was trying to sort of corner this market for the AI market for big pharma and for major investment banks back during that time. And actually in these Wall Street Journal reports that have come out recently, it mentioned that the Edmund de Rothschild group, Arian de Rothschild named in those documents, had entered into an agreement with Southern Trust, I think around $7 million, that they had contracted this AI financial algorithm company that Epstein was making in the USVI. Again, the financial services thing with Epstein is very underexplored by mainstream media. Totally. And what you referred to there about the public perception of, you have your picture with Epstein, you're a pedo. I would blame all of that on mainstream media because mainstream media is only interested in talking about Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking activities from 2000 to 2006, nothing before, and essentially nothing after.
Why do you think?
I think it's to protect a lot of powerful people that engaged in financial criminality with them, and also people like Bill Gates and Bill Clinton as well, because a lot of that, their ties, for example, with Gates, that goes back to the 1990s. Mainstream media says it was 2011. And the reason I think they say that is Gates didn't have any role in Microsoft at that time. If you look back before then, there's a lot of Gates and Maxwell family ties to Microsoft and other Microsoft executives, Linda Stone, Nathan Myhrvold, documented Epstein ties with them back in the late 90s.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.